Hey everybody, welcome to Ready Set Drone. Today I have the XK X300. It's a brushless motor quad with FPV capabilities, so stay tuned and we'll check it out. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to GearBest for supplying this X300 for us. A few months ago they actually gave me the Whirlwind, which is also by XK. It is a smaller brushless quad. It's a 251, which I assume means 251 millimeters diagonally. This one's 300, so you can see it's a little bit bigger. They are kind of similar. This one's a little bit heavier. This one did not have a camera when I got it. I think there is an aftermarket camera or a camera that XK makes that's available for it. However, it is quite a bit smaller. This guy is really fun to fly. It's one of my favorite brushless quads and was really a great one to learn to fly on. I have a feeling this is going to be similar in terms of its performance, but with a little bit more power because it's a little bit bigger. But I just wanted to show you the comparison. I do have a video for the Whirlwind 251, so if you want to go check that out, I'll put a link in here. But there you can see the difference between the two. One thing right out of the gate that I really like about this guy is the look of it. It just has a very cool modern look. It does have a proprietary battery that fits in the back. Oh, here it is. I've charged this battery. This battery is unfortunately only going to work in this quad because of its shape and the way it's connected. This is a 2S 2000 milliamp hour battery, which is decent for a quad this size. The 3S might be a little bit better, but we'll see how it does. But like I said, it's got a proprietary shape. And you also have to charge it using this proprietary charger that it comes with, this thing right here, which basically just plugs into the back of it. It's a little adapter that goes on top of this piece. This is a standard charger, but unfortunately, you know, you're only going to be able to charge it with this one type of charger. I don't think this is a standard connector. So that's one thing I don't like about it. One thing I liked about the Whirlwind was that it came with a 2S battery as well, but it was a standard battery, and it actually took its power through the 2S battery. It took its power through the balance port, and I was able to use some Blade batteries that I had for some helicopters that worked just fine with it. So it was more of a standard battery that was easier to charge, and I had a lot of them laying around. But that aside, everybody seems to be going to these proprietary batteries that only work in their quad. I guess the upside of it is it slips in nicely into the back, just like this, as you can see. You have to push this down. Well, it's not quite as easy as, oh, there we go. You have to push down on the two little tabs to make sure it'll go in, and then you push them in to make sure it'll come out. So now it's in. I did charge it overnight, so it's got that going for it. It does use a 5.8 gigahertz FPV signal, which works with this little screen here. This is one of those screens that you pop open and the sides come open. Let's see. Like that for shade. Has a standard antenna. Now the device, this little bracket that it comes with, fits into these two little holes right here in the back. The problem is I took the screws out. There were screws in these holes. I took them out. This little bracket does not have holes in the bottom of it. So in other words, those screws can't go through in order to thread back in here and hold it in place. It doesn't have any instructions that explain that. So my plan is to actually just clip the bottoms of these things off, like so. There's one. Two. Now I've kind of distorted them a little bit. They're a little bit misshapen, so I'm going to need to just use these cutters to kind of make them round again, which I'm doing right now. Now I'm going to see, now that I've clipped the bottom of that off, I'm going to see if this will actually fit in here. And again, there were no instructions that really showed you what to do with this thing. I'm hoping that now these screws that were in here originally will go back in and hold this thing in place. And again, I gotta push on them a little bit to get them through that first hole.
I should call you Daddy.
So unfortunately, that doesn't really seem to work. So if they would stay in place, this would actually work to hold the screen in place, just like that, and you'd be good to go. And it kind of will sit in there. I suppose maybe the way you're supposed to do it is just let the weight, it seems to kind of sit in there, but it's not, you know, it can fall out at any moment, so it's not something I would trust. So we're gonna just go with it and see how it works. I suppose you could maybe put a little glue right there if you wanted to connect this thing. I actually want to try and fly it with using Fat Sharks and see if that would work as well, so I don't have to bother with the screen, but I wanted to show it to you as it is set up. So there it is on. It's not on there very well because these screws are not making a full connection, and I'm not modifying anything at the moment. So there we go. So all of that said, let's talk about a few of the features of this guy. It is supposed to have altitude hold, which I think is done through barometer, so we'll see how well it does that. It has optical positioning and extreme precision within 8 meters indoor or outdoors. So 8 meters is not really extreme precision. It does have what looks like a little camera here on the bottom, which that might be the optical positioning camera that tries to hold it in place. We'll see how well it stays in one place. It does transmit 5.8 gigahertz, which is great if you want to use your Fat Sharks. It should work with them. And it weighs 370 grams with the battery in it, and it also is has a flight time of about 15-16 minutes according to the box. It does come with a micro SD card. I was going to show you one other thing. You can actually pull the camera out. There's a little tab, so you pull the camera out and then the micro SD card goes in the side like this. So I've pulled the camera out of the side of it, put the micro SD card in it. Comes with a 4 gig micro SD card. It's a 720p camera. Pop it back in place. And so that's kind of nice, convenient that it's that low profile and pulls out that easily. Okay, in order to bind the thing, you have to pull the throttle down and then back up, and it'll beep like it just did. Now I'm going to do the auto calibration, pulling the sticks down and to the right. You see how the lights blink? That means it's calibrating itself for level. Now I'm going to, in order to fire up the motors, I'm going to go down and out with both sticks. Same thing to kill them. And then in order to start the video rolling, you push the top right button for an extended period. Alright, I'm going to try the takeoff button. Actually, I'm going to start the motors. Try the takeoff button. Takeoff button seems to do nothing. So I'm just going to try taking it off myself. First of all, let's try the altitude hold and the video, the optical sensor to see if it holds in place. I am not touching the stick at all, and you can see it's it actually is holding in place decently. It's a big gust of wind just came by. You can see leaves blowing down, and it's actually holding itself in place pretty well. Again, not touching the stick at all, and it seems to be holding pretty well. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch it into 80% mode and take it around the yard a little bit. Very, very responsive. It's got a fast yaw rate. Now one thing that's kind of weird is it's got a centering stick, so you've got to pull the stick down past halfway in order to get it to go down at all. And then just now I took it too far and it killed the motor. So I'm going to recalibrate. I'm going to start again. see that wind is really blowing on the grass. Now I'm going to try holding it in position one more time, bring it right over here, see if Tate can get a good shot around it. So I'm not touching the stick, I'm just letting it sit again. And you can see it's holding pretty well. Again, there's a decent amount of wind out today, and so it's holding okay for that amount of wind. It's using that optical sensor on the bottom and its altitude hold. Very responsive. It's definitely agile, and like I said, it's got a really fast yaw rate. Does not have GPS, so it doesn't just stop when you let go of the stick. And it also, I'm pulling the stick down now to try and lower the altitude, trying not to pull it down too far because I don't want to kill the engines like I just did. So that's a problem, is you pull the stick down part way and it doesn't come down. You have to almost kill the engines to get it to drop to the ground. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to go get the fat sharks and try flying it with those, and then we'll see how that does. Okay, so I've got the fat sharks here, and pretty easily was able to get a signal, and I'm going to see if I can fly them with the fat sharks. See how that goes. So here we go. This should be interesting. So it's a pretty good signal that I'm getting. Definitely, as I said, it's a little bit windy today, so it's a little bit challenging. Alright, so the XK X300, it definitely has some problems. I'll start with those. First of all, not a big fan of the proprietary battery. You know, that one is not a deal killer, but it just means you have to buy the exact battery for it, and it only has one charger you can use with it. Number two, the whole mounting of the screen onto the remote was a little bit problematic, as I showed you. It's on there, but not really well right now. And so it's not an issue if you're going to use your fat sharks, which I'll get to in a second. Number three, the throttle, it centers itself, and you have to pull it down in order to make it go down, which makes sense, but you have to pull it down really far, and then what happens is sometimes you accidentally kill the motor because you pulled it down too far. So it's kind of a thing where you have to come down really slowly if you're going to maintain control with it, which I don't like. And then I'd say the last thing is there's a couple of buttons on here that don't really seem to work. Like, I'm not sure if I was actually recording video or not. I'm gonna have to look at the card and see what kind of video or pictures I was able to actually get. The takeoff button doesn't seem to do anything. But those are my main concerns. Now, that's a pretty big list, but there's also just as big a list of good things about it. One thing that I really like about it is the look. I like the fact that it works right out of the box really well with fat sharks, and you can fly it with fat sharks. I'd recommend, I have a fairly good sized yard, but I'd recommend getting into a big open space to do that, because especially on a windy day like today, it was wanting to drift, and I think I almost hit my cameraman a couple times and ran into a tree, etc. So it's challenging to fly in a small space with fat sharks, but in a big open space I think it would do a lot better. The next thing that I really like is the fact that its camera is pretty decent quality and its transmitter seems to work pretty well. Again, as you can see from the DVR'd Fat Shark content that I recorded. The remote control is pretty good quality. The brushless motors are really strong. It's got a lot of pickup in terms of its power. It yaws really fast. It has 3 flight rates, so you're able to fly at 60, 80, or 100%. It does flip, and I did actually flip it once by accident right in the beginning, but it was a very crisp flip. I like the fact that it doesn't have big landing gear coming off the bottom too, that it actually lands on the motors, which means that it's a lower profile and not as top heavy. So overall, it's an interesting little quad. It's definitely cool looking. It would be a great maybe second quad. I wouldn't recommend it for a total beginner, but I think it would be one that if you're a little bit more advanced and wanting to get into FPV, it does work with the goggles. It would also work with Kylan or some of the other less expensive goggles besides Fat Sharks as well. So I'm going to give it, for its quality of build, it's very good. Its user manual is not great, and its remote control has a lot of issues. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So if you want to check it out further and read all the specs, I've got a link in the description of where you can go to see all the specifications and the pricing. It's a decent quad. I wouldn't call it my favorite, but I definitely think it's a nice little FPV flyer. You just have to get past some of those little problems that I told you about. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please hit the like button. If you really like it, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Ready Set Drone. Thanks for watching.